Hey there, Jordan Chariton, live Status Coup, right here in the United Corporations of America. It is Monday, the year 2022, August 22nd. Joined, man, the myth, the legend, Ron Placone.
What's up,
Colin,
Jordan?
Colin, you gotta figure out a way so on screen it doesn't look like I'm 7 inches taller than Ron, because I'm in my chair, kind of high. Ron's a little lower because obviously he's taller than me in acumen and articulation. Um, Ron, thank you for joining me. Ron Placone of the Ron Placone Show. Subscribe to Ron Placone's YouTube channel, which, like Status Coup, isn't often boosted in YouTube's algorithm. So we need
That's the truth.
all of you to boost. How you doing in LA? Is your house on fire?
No. Fortunately, it's not on fire where I'm at the moment. But you never know. I mean, every day is you wake up and you're like, okay, the air quality's all right, cool. Do we have? Is the food growing? No. All right. Well, fair enough. Are we still in a drought? All right. Fair enough. There's a guy watering his driveway. Damn it. All right. And then you just move on with your day.
Absolutely. We're going to need your comedic skills a little bit later. We'll be talking about George W. Bush's masterclass, which I'm very much excited about. The new vortex we live in. George W. Bush is just a misunderstood painter, among other things. So we'll be talking
Well,
about.
I threw a theory out there that the entire masterclass is just him reading a book that Dick Cheney wrote. But my theory does entertain the idea that at some point he did in fact learn to read. So we'll see.
Love it. By the way, the new visual assist. Thank you, Colin. I don't know about the color scheme, but I do like the idea. We have on the bottom of the screen the topics, the order. If something breaks, obviously throw that out. So we're going to start. Obviously, Bernie had a big weekend, which kind of, to me, Ron, we'll get into it, but adds to the tragedy that is Bernie Sanders in some ways. Can you put that back up? I'm old and need a visual assistance. So we'll start with Bernie's rallies. Then we'll do the latest in the Trump raid. There is something in this order that the judge put out today that I think is actually illuminating as far as what's going on down in Mar-A-Lago. Then we're going to get to this deviant scumbag Larry Summers, who does not want one nickel of student loan debt canceled, shockingly. And then we'll get to George W. Bush and his masterclass. Smash that like button. Share this live stream. The more people that see, the more people that like, the more people that will see. And keep those super chats coming. Thank you, Venetia, for starting us off. We'll read them at the end. So, Ron, I don't know if you've ever gone to anything political in August, but it's not easy to get people out, even in a midterm election year. It is not easy to get people in the dead of summer for anything. For example, Nina Turner's first election in Cleveland was a year ago, running for Congress the first time. I'm not making excuses for her. She lost and frankly should have won. She made mistakes. She didn't really have much of a campaign ground game, but it also didn't help that the election was in the first week of August in Cleveland and nobody even knew it was going on. So it's pretty difficult to get people out paying attention in August. People are, if you're lucky enough in this country to take a vacation, you're taking it in summer, or you're, just kind of checked out, or you're enjoying, the beach or whatever it is.
August. Totally, man. Yeah, I mean, especially in a place like the Midwest. I mean, you brought up like Nina Turner as an example. I grew up nearby in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh gets a lot more rain than Cleveland, actually. But in that part of the country, when you get the nice weather for a few months, you really grab it because it's going to be crappy most of the year weather-wise.
Right. So why I'm bringing this up is Bernie Sanders, who you and I both probably have complaints about. I don't, call him a fraud and a Lucifer like some, but he's not a god. You could criticize him while still respecting what he's done for the movement.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, I always say this, like, yeah, he pisses me off a lot and often, but every day, do I wish he was president? Hell yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
We'd be so much better off if he was president right now. And if he was president, he would still be pissing us off every day, too. but he'd be doing a lot of things that Biden sure as hell wasn't doing. There's these things called executive orders, and we all know that Bernie would do a few that Biden wouldn't, and we'd be a lot better off than we are right now. We'd still have a lot of problems, but we'd be better off than we are now.
Absolutely. So the reason I bring it up is he was in Philadelphia over the weekend and then Boston in the dead of summer. This 80-year-old, 81 now, who's keeping track? Early 80s.
I think he's 80, yeah.
Colin, if you have the two tweets at the top, brought out 1,000 people in Philadelphia on Saturday. That's the picture. And then the next day in Boston, 1,500. This is not like, let's kiss Bernie Sanders' ass hour, but it should be noted that's a pretty decent feat in a midterm election year that he's not running. I mean, basically you have, corporatist Dems for the most part running, a couple progressives sprinkled in. That Bernie Sanders is still in the dead of summer when, by the way, Biden could not get 1,000 people out at most of his campaign events during his presidential campaign.
Right.
Colin, let's play some of the clips from Bernie's rally in Philly and Boston. The theme was labor power, union power. He had Sarah Nelson of the Flight Attendants Union, other union leaders, labor leaders speaking. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Here's something that we should never forget, that in the last 50 years, despite a huge increase in worker productivity, Sean, your workers, Sarah, your workers, far more productive than they were 50 years ago. Real inflation accounted for wages today are lower than they were 50 years ago. And meanwhile, as the working class struggles, and in many cases fall further and further behind, you got three people on top, the three bozos that Sean referred to, who now own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. The corporate media allows us to get outraged about this and about that. Well, whether they like it or not, we have the moral responsibility to be outraged when three people own more wealth than half of American society, when the top 1% are earning 45% of all incomes, when corporate CEOs are now making 350 times what their workers are making. When you are in a union, you earn better wages, you earn better benefits, you have better working conditions, and you actually understand what a pension is. Maybe even more important than all of that, what a union does is make you not a cog in a machine. You have some power, some say, over your work life. If we're going to save the middle class of this country, we're going to grow the trade union movement. Workers are going to have a voice on the job. They're going to have a voice in Washington and in their state capitals all over this country. We're not going to let the demagogues divide us up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation. We believe in human solidarity. We're going to stand together and take on the big money interest. We're talking about unprecedented profits in industry after industry. While they charge us $450.
So that was vintage Bernie, nothing you haven't heard. But I kind of feel, how do I say it? Mixed. Because in one end, I think it's politically speaking pretty damn impressive that a guy who's lost the presidency twice is pulling out 1,000 people, 1,500 people in the dead of summer. And he's not running, so it's really people coming out based on the issues, based on labor power. But on the other end, if he could pull out 1,000 people in Philly, if he could pull out 1,500 in Boston, why can't he do that thousands in front of the White House right now to demand that Joe Biden cancel all the student loan debt? The same thing goes for why couldn't he have done this during the pandemic? Obviously, people need to weigh their own health if they wanted to go out, but pressure Biden to, at the very least, follow through on his campaign promise for a public option. I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm not, there is nuance. You can't blame Bernie for everything, but he has an army just waiting for the bat signal. A lot of them were out there at these rallies, but it seems that he basically, after he lost these 2 times, chose to do the kind of, well, let me meet with my friend Joe and, play the inside game, and I'll write a op-ed in Mansion's newspaper in West Virginia, but I won't actually galvanize the troops to storm the gates of the White House. And it makes me feel bittersweet, because what he's doing this weekend, although I admire it, he could be doing and could have been doing to pressure Biden.
Well, I think those are all great points. And what I would add to that is I would rather see him take a more hardline stance in the lane that he is in. Bernie's in the Senate. And, we can use the recent RIA bill as an example. Bernie was pretty much the only person who did anything to try to salvage that bill and make it better, which that's cool. I'm glad he did that. But he ended up voting for it anyway after they turned down all of his amendments. And they knew that was going to happen. They know that, Bernie's just not that guy that would go that hard nose in the sand and be like, all right, if you don't give us a little, you're not getting my support, and you need my support. So you either give us a little or you ain't getting my support, and you freaking need it. Bernie knows that. They know that Bernie knows that, but they know that Bernie's not going to play hardball the way someone like a Joe Manchin will. So they know that they're just not going to, they're like, screw your amendments, Bernie, because we know you're going to vote for this anyway. And that's unfortunate. I mean, it'd be nice if we had someone who would take a hard line like that. Now, the difference is Joe Manchin has the establishment and all the Republicans behind him. Bernie Sanders, well, he has us. But, electorally, that's not quite cutting the mustard. And when you see rallies like this, what I think it also means, and this isn't necessarily a diss on Bernie as much as it's just an observation on how change works. I think it's time we really need to go beyond Bernie and not have to rely on Bernie to kind of fill the seats for something like this. The one thing Bernie did that I'll always be thankful for forever, and you touched on this, is he showed us being lefties in the United States, that we're not as alone as we thought we were. We're still the smallest group politically in the country by far. That's why it's a good thing we tear each other apart over the 2% of things we disagree on. But we still are the smallest group politically in the country. But we're not quite as small as we thought. There's more of us than we realized. So Bernie taught us that by just being in the right place at the right time and then filling up stadiums. That's freaking great. But now you kind of got to look around and be like, okay, where do we go now? And we can't just rely on Bernie, a person who is not a revolutionary. He is a reformer. That's just definitionally what he is. We can't rely on him to really get the butts in the seats and to really get the people out on the streets. We can't rely on that anymore. It's been long enough. It's been 6 years. We need our Eugene Debs. We need our Emma Goldmans, our Lucy Parsons. That's what we need right now. People who will lead something like a general strike. And we're starting to see that on the micro level, one union effort at a time, be it at Starbucks or Amazon or wherever else. And I think that is where the future is. So yeah, it's great that Bernie is doing stuff like this, but we need to start thinking ahead and being like, okay, we don't need someone in office to lead stuff like this. We need to lead stuff like this because we need the people. We need someone like Bernie to be on the inside looking out and going, see those people? They're fed up and they're pissed. So you got to approve these amendments because they won't tolerate it otherwise. And we also need Bernie, and this is on Bernie, and politicians that, like Bernie, that say they're on our side, the squad, et cetera, et cetera. We need them to play that hard nose and be like, those are my people out there. My people aren't in the donor ring. My people aren't, like the Republicans, obviously. My people are the ones in the streets striking right now. They're the working class. And if
Ron,
you don't...
I just want to show you this. Colin, if we could put up where Pete Buttigieg was this weekend, because while Bernie was out with the people, Pete Buttigieg was at Nancy Pelosi's big Napa fundraiser. I don't know if you got your invite. This is like the Super Bowl of the fundraisers every year in Napa for Nancy Pelosi. And Mayor Pete stopped by. I guess he moved from the wine cave over to the vineyards. But that kind of says everything you need to know about parties and the differences here.
No, exactly. And actually, Jordan, I think they accidentally sent my invite to my old address, unfortunately. I would have been there otherwise. But yeah, I mean, that's what you need. You need people like that to look out and be like, those are my people out there. So you're going to give us a little or you're not getting our support. And we haven't seen that so far. And that, I think that is what we need to galvanize. And that, like we can't be relying on Bernie. I mean, it's never happened in the United States before where like a politician has led a true movement, like FDR didn't lead the labor movement. Like people led the labor movement. The unions led the labor movement. The anarchists, the socialists, the communists. And they didn't agree on everything, by the way. They butted heads plenty. But they united just enough to be large enough that FDR looked outside and he said, okay, rich friends, we're going to give up a little or we're going to give up everything. You choose. Because those people are pissed off. And those are the people I got to report to, just so you know.
Right.
So, I mean, I just think that's where we're at. So whenever I see Bernie leading something like this, yeah, it's great. It's happening. But it's time to focus on what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, I agree. I agree and I disagree. On one end, I think we've all learned that, we're human, right? So everybody got caught up. Everybody got caught up in the Bernie wave. And you kind of, start being deluded into thinking one leader is going to do it.
Sure.
And one president's going to do it, or, just a couple more Congress people are going to do it. When the corruption is too systemic for it to be in just individuals, this and that, it has to be a movement. But I do believe that because of the exhaustion of the American worker, forget progressive, I just saw it on the road. I mean, I asked the woman, like, what do you think of economic organizing, economic protest? She said, I can't fill up my gas tank to get to the protest. I mean, if that tells you anything. A lot of other people are so exhausted. So I feel like even though we need to get out of this, ignite my, I need you, Bernie, to ignite me. The sad reality is people are so burnt out that in a lot of cases that still that kind of somebody that, whether it's Bernie or other folks that appear like they're fighting or at least going across the parties, meaning they'll take it to their own party. They're not going to just kind of be sycophants, kind of helps to inspire. I think people need to be more self-sufficient to be inspired and take it upon yourself. Don't wait for Bernie to join a tenants union or try to unionize or, try to organize your workers on strike, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think we could have gotten a lot more if Bernie, in conjunction with the squad, would have said, hey, we already backed off on a $15 minimum wage. We let you abandon that to Biden. We didn't raise a ruckus for a public option, which you ran on. But at some point, say, fuck it, they're steamrolling us, and aggressively go after Biden, aggressively go after the Democratic Party, because that would ignite the dormant progressive base, which I think then has a domino effect to not only get people, eager to get out, protest in front of the White House, or et cetera, but maybe, Bernie and these others could have steered people in the direction of these union strikes, this and that. I think it's been the overall muteness, which is not a word, but the mute level of Bernie, because it's not like he hasn't done anything, but he's done what he normally does, rallying around the country, not actually igniting people to exert power, to pressure Biden. Because I got news for you. Right now, Biden is and the Democratic establishment, they're kind of liking some of the headlines, right? The polls are shrinking in terms of the Republican advantage. The Roe decision to overturn Roe v. Wade really has given them life when it was assumed it was going to be a Republican bloodbath in November. I mean, I think it's bullshit, but technically, the job numbers are okay, as they say. And some key Senate races, Democrats are actually winning. What better time for Bernie Sanders to be a fucking pain in their ass, a thorn in their side, and bring out 2,000 to 3,000 people at the White House demanding, no, $10,000 not going to do it, my friend Joe.
Yeah.
Put pressure on him, because then they need to win the midterms, or they want to win the midterms. So then you're actually putting them on defense. Maybe it gets you another $10,000 to $20,000 in student loan cancellation, more than he would have done. Is that enough? No, but it's better than 10,000 if that's what he can do. So that's my whole point. Like, I look at what Bernie's doing here, and I completely agree with you. We can't just rely on Bernie, but he is a senator. He has a massive mailing list. He still has a massive army. I think there's a lot of people that fell out of favor with Bernie Sanders, that if he would do the things we're saying, they'd fall back in love with him in 5 minutes. Because it's never been like about, oh, Bernie, you personally betrayed me. It's that they viewed him as kind of falling in line. So if he started doing more aggressive tactics, so, it's all wishful thinking, but it should tell you something. It should tell you something. I have no inside information. I think we need to start working outside of electoral politics a lot more. I think you and I have talked about, economic boycotts and a general strike. But I will say, this man, if he has the stamina to do it, I think, and he would run again, I would prefer as an independent. I don't know if he would win, but he still can draw millions of people, and he still would have, in the key primary states, a starting base of support. Your final.
Oh yeah, and I certainly, by all means, I'm not suggesting we don't use every tool in the arsenal. Like, I'm all for that. Like it's like, yeah, he does have a hell of an email list, and he does have a hell of a base. I'm just saying, you're talking about like what would inspire people, what would reignite people, and I think we're both basically coming to the same conclusion. What would ignite people more than anything is a policy victory. Yeah. Be it a significant amount of student loan debt forgiveness, or, like huge union victories, a victory for labor, which we're starting to see on the micro scale. But to have a big, sizable victory, that is what we so desperately need. And that would really, really wake people up. And I guess all I'm saying is, I want us to be the people in the street. And I want the Bernie Sanders, the people in the electoral world, to be able to take a hardline stance, because we are too loud to ignore. But they still need to take that stance.
Absolutely. Smash that like button. 300 people watching, but we need every single person to press like. We got 190 likes, but 300 watching. I need every single person watching after you press the like button to go subscribe to get your news on. What is it? Get your news on with
Ron. Yeah. It's just youtube.com/Ron Placone. So yeah, subscribe to me over there.
Yes, it's right in the description. Colin, let me get the alert here. Hold on. We have some breaking news. Breaking news. We were going to talk about the Trump raid, but there's now breaking news with the Trump raid. Colin, if you could pump up the CNN article I just sent you. Trump's legal team asked for a special master to go through Mar-A-Lago evidence and determine if some should be returned. President Trump's...
Jordan, more breaking news. I politely declined the position.
I love that.
Continue.
Former President Trump's legal team has asked a federal judge to appoint a special master to ensure the Justice Department returns any of his private documents seized during the search of Mar-A-Lago. Trump is asking for a special master, the third-party attorney, to oversee the review of evidence gathered from the beach club in the criminal probe, and for the judge to pause federal investigators' work related to the evidence until the review is done. The new lawsuit marks the first legal filing by Trump's team after FBI agents carried out their search on August 8th and underscores how his legal team has struggled to coalesce around a singular strategy. So the breaking news is Trump has filed a lawsuit. I believe it's against the DOJ. Let me look at the document. It's in the Southern District of Florida. Colin, if you could put up the affidavit if you have it. I think I sent it to you. Here, let me link you to it, Colin.
Breaking news, folks.
Breaking news, so you got to roll with us. And smash that like button, share this with other people, and get it out to more people. All right. Let me know when you have it, Colin. And it appears, I could be wrong from reading this, it appears Trump is representing himself in these documents. I don't see another lawyer. Usually the lawyer is at the top.
This will be incredibly entertaining at the very least. You know, honestly, this is, I am joking, but not actually, I'm not joking on this theory. If that's true and he's representing himself, it's because he watched the finale of Better Call Saul and was like, yeah, I can do that.
Oh, don't tell me. I haven't seen it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't spoil anything, but yeah.
Got it.
It's because, you know.
So the top of this, President Donald Trump, through his undersigned counsel, respectfully files the motion for judicial oversight and additional relief, which seeks an order that, quote, appoints a special master, enjoins further review of seized materials by the government until a special master is appointed, requires the government to provide a more detailed receipt for property, and requires the government to return any item seized that was not within the scope of the search warrant. Yeah, I'm not going to read this whole thing. So a couple things here, And Colin, if you still have the affidavit that we were going to talk about before this broke, this was the one that a judge in the case issued an order earlier that I want to read a part from. So if you can go down, this is from this morning, judge's order. Hold on. All these fucking legal documents are giving me a headache. Hold on.
You mean it's not fun reading for you?
No.
Legal documents are the best, man. They're page turners.
Order to motion, background. All right. If you can go down to the section of goodness, is there a control F on this motherfucker? Here we go. The discussion part. Balancing the parties' interests, Ron. The government argues that unsealing the affidavit would jeopardize the integrity of its ongoing criminal investigation. The government's motion says, quote, as the court is aware from its review of the affidavit, it contains, among other critically important and detailed investigative facts, highly sensitive information about witnesses, including witnesses interviewed by the government, specific investigative techniques, and information required by law to be kept under a seal pursuant to the federal rule of criminal procedure. So why I think that's important, Ron? And by the way, like the top takeaway from what the judge, this document, which the judge put out this morning, he basically said it's not really worth releasing the affidavit for the search warrant, which would which would have not just the crimes that they're investigating, but actual evidence that they provided to the judge to get the search warrant approved. So basically, this judge was saying it's not worth it to release it if everything's going to be redacted. And you probably would have to redact a lot of it because of witnesses, evidence, this and that. I mean, think like Tony Soprano, for example. If the documents were released on who the rats were, who the informants were, who was cooperating with the government, I'm not saying Trump has like a Soprano-style guy to go and off people, but don't put it past Donald Trump and his squad to try and get witnesses to recant or threaten them or intimidate them not to cooperate after they initially cooperated. So often, I mean, it's very rare that like during a criminal investigation, they would release like the affidavit for a search warrant. Like I think of my coverage of Flint. They wouldn't like release that to the public because then you're just giving the defense basically everything you have. But it's also, you wouldn't release it to the public for the benefit of the defendant because if the defendant, if you don't end up prosecuting them or charging them, then you're unnecessarily smearing their name if ultimately there's not enough evidence. So it kind of goes both ways. But what I think is interesting about this that the judge put out this morning, Ron, if you could put it back up, Colin, that part I was reading from, when it says, as the court is aware from its review of the affidavit, it contains, among other critically important and detailed investigative facts, highly sensitive information about witnesses plural, including witnesses interviewed by the government. So what that says to me, I don't think it's an unreasonable interpretation. A, there's more than one witness that has talked to the government. When we say witness, we just mean who tipped off the FBI. Who tipped off the FBI that the lawyer for Trump who certified that they had returned everything, somebody or more than one person tipped off the FBI. Yeah, no, he hasn't returned everything. There's X, Y, and Z here, and possibly what is he doing? You know, is it just that he has this classified information, or do informants have reason to believe he's doing something untoward with it? The other thing is, you know, you would have to think if that the motion is saying that witnesses who have interviewed with the government, this isn't like some criminal investigation that just started 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's probably something that has been going on for at least a couple of weeks, if not longer than that, in terms of they're talking about witnesses that have already interviewed with the government. So the journalist side of me says, I want everything released, for transparency and all that. But on the other side, I mean, if you're releasing everything, essentially if they release everything, you're putting witnesses possibly in danger. I mean, we've seen what a Trump supporter did attacking the FBI in Cincinnati. Another Trump supporter was just arrested in Pennsylvania for threatening to slaughter the FBI. Secondly, you're basically giving away everything for Trump's team to then spin and try to defend. So I feel mixed about it. But what I think, what the judge put out this morning, basically saying it probably doesn't make sense to release the whole thing redacted. So why release it at all? Because if we're releasing it so heavily redacted, the media and the American people are not going to get the information they need. The second part is, in addition to the fact that what the judge put out this morning, Ron, saying witnesses that have already interviewed with the government, notice Trump's lawyers were not challenging the DOJ in court last week. They were not pushing for the affidavit to be released. That's kind of a part, I think Breaking Point's brought that up. But Trump's lawyers were not in there like pushing hard against the DOJ saying, release it all. And now you have Trump filing a lawsuit, not demanding that the affidavit is released, but basically trying to delay the process. That's what Trump's lawsuit is in a nutshell. Create a special magistrate to go through everything that was seized and make sure it's all kosher and it's within the scope of the search warrant. That's just a delay tactic. So, moral of the story, to me, what Trump is doing and the fact that his lawyers have not been pushing to release the search warrant affidavit, and Trump himself is not pushing to release the search warrant affidavit, he's pushing to delay the whole process, tells me he knows what they're going after, he knows what they have, and he doesn't want it out. That's my thoughts.
When they a question about just sort of the procedural stuff, and especially like the thing today about the judge, like, oh, well, if so much of it is redacted, we're not going to put it out. Did they indicate, like, is that sort of, do they mean that indefinitely? Or do they mean like it will eventually come out unredacted?
Well, if Trump is prosecuted, if they charge him with something, then it's all going to come out in a trial. So it's not like, all right, if they decide to prosecute him, same day the affidavit would be released. I mean, it's just a matter of, it goes to trial, your witnesses testify, your evidence comes out. If they decline to prosecute him, and this is America, so let's not get our hopes up that they will prosecute him. He's a wealthy white fuck.
I think that I am still, out of all the you, Tina, I do think I am still the most skeptical that anything will come from this.
You know, I talked to two friends of mine that are lawyers. They're not like in the know. They don't have relationships in DC, but they're lawyers and they know Merrick Garland. Not know him, but like know of Merrick Garland. And Merrick Garland is kind of known in politics in the legal world as kind of like very risk averse, meaning he, you know, he's not a bomb thrower. He would be hesitant to do things that might appear political. You know, he probably wouldn't have done what Comey did in 2016, like coming out like 2 weeks before the election to like announce that we found something else on Hillary. Like, he's very conservative, not politically, but conservative, like temperamentally, like very risk averse. If you've been paying attention, you know, Democrats have been frustrated that like his DOJ hasn't done more on January 6th. So to me, the fact that Garland approved this tells me there's something none of us know. There's something none of us know that is so egregious that even a political, you know, pussy, for lack of a better word, excuse my French, approved it. Now, I'm skeptical that Trump could be convicted, but them actually going after him first versus him being convicted is two different things. I don't know. The fact that they've, gone all in, which is basically doing the raid, kind of tells me, again, you needed probable cause to get the warrant approved. That means you needed evidence already provided to a judge that he was committing crimes. So I don't know. We'll see. But what Trump is doing right now, again, if anybody's confused by the parts of the affidavit I read, let me just dumb it down. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand this. Bottom line, a judge is saying it ultimately won't make a lot of sense to release the affidavit, which the affidavit is basically, think of like the search warrant is like the Cliff Notes and the affidavit is like the actual book report. You know, the affidavit will give you the meat, what evidence they have, et cetera, et cetera. So the judge is saying, yeah, it doesn't make sense to release it because most of it will be redacted and you're not, that's not really going to give people, the media, the American people, what they want. If Trump really wanted the affidavit out, his lawyers would have been arguing in court last week against the DOJ in South Florida, release this full affidavit. If Trump really wanted it out, the lawsuit that he just filed today, pretty much right before we went on air, he'd be pushing to release the affidavit. What he's pushing for is to basically appoint essentially like a special magistrate to delay the process. This is what they call, in the Flint case, like a taint team. So a taint team to go in and go through all the documents to make sure that the prosecution did not take anything that's attorney-client privilege, documents that they can't use because it's under attorney-client privilege and can't be used to go after a defendant. So basically, that could take a year. That could take a year for, in the case of a criminal like Flint, that could take a year or two to go through tens of thousands of documents that prosecutors have to make sure there's nothing they have and plan to use to charge defendants that can't be used because it's under the attorney-client privilege. And in the case of Trump, a special magistrate, I don't know, but it definitely would delay things. So to me, this is not somebody who wants this information out. This is somebody who wants to delay, but make it appear that it's the DOJ and the FBI that are hiding something. I don't know if you have the displeasure, Ron, of being on Trump's email list. I've probably gotten about 60 emails over the last
really? Yeah, I'm not on it.
He's fundraising like a motherfucker off of this. But if you had nothing to hide, you would be using your lawyers to demand that this is out because it would prove your point. The deep state is coming after me for nothing. They're coming after me for the same thing they didn't go after Hillary on. So, who knows? We could all be wrong. Some of us could be right. None of us could be right. But to me, Trump's behavior doesn't come across to me. It comes across to me as somebody who knows what they have, knows what he was or was not doing, and wants to drag it out as far as possible, probably after he wants to drag out any of the information coming out until he's already launched his presidential campaign.
Well, that's what I was actually just going to ask you that. I mean, it sounds to me like this is a move to just sort of wait out the clock. Because it's like, I mean, if something were to take a year, I mean, by that time, you know, I mean, especially, you know, how the American public is, you know, I mean, we're the United States of amnesia, you know, at that time, like, who knows where public opinion is going to be? Who knows where we'll be politically at that point? Because that'll be post midterms, obviously. So, I mean, it kind of just sounds like a play to wait out the clock. I have no idea if there's a smoking gun or not. Like, I have no clue. I don't think any of us know for sure, but like it sounds like he's just trying to sort of play out the clock, and then this will just sort of dissipate. I mean, I could be wrong, but I openly admit that I am the most skeptical, and it's because I don't have any faith whatsoever in institutions like the FBI. I do not have. Obviously, I despise Trump as much as everyone else. I mean, this is just a big plethora of bad guys, and I just have no. I don't really have any confidence in the institution, quite frankly.
Losers. They're just losers. They're losers. They're just losers. They're losers.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. All I know is, I mean, as somebody who's been covering the Flint cover-up for many years, defendants that are guilty, defendants that have a lot to hide, I'm talking about Rick Snyder, the former governor of Michigan, what their army of lawyers do is they stonewall.
Yeah.
And they delay. And they spend a lot of money on the media narrative. It's not a coincidence that like the Wall Street Journal and, you know, all these places eventually started coming out with like, is the Flint water crisis being politicized to go after Governor Snyder and things like that. They don't comply with subpoenas. They don't give prosecutors all the documents they need. And I'm starting to see similarities here because honestly, Trump's obviously it would have leaked, but Trump is the one that made the raid like a thing in the first place. Like he put it out there as it was happening.
I mean, he would have live tweeted it if he was on Twitter still. I mean, he pretty much was
so
like documenting the whole thing.
The FBI and the DOJ obviously would have leaked. I mean, you can't raid the former president's home without it making news. But he's the one that was like, you know, truth socialing it in real time. He's the one doing the fundraising emails. He's the one that has sent out the bat signal to right-wing media to be hysterical and call it the end of the republic. But at the end of the day, if he had nothing to hide, if he was telling the truth that, oh, they just took the same shit that Hillary had, and that, you know, I think he and his lawyers would be pushing for the whole thing to be released and calling it a big cover-up if they redact anything. He's not.
Right.
I think that says anything. But
well, and
Trump's motive and what he is or isn't hiding is a completely different story from this is the United Corporations of America. Wealthy white men and women don't typically get prosecuted. If they do, they end up killing themselves in prison, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so, but to me, what he's doing, filing this lawsuit to basically delay the process, demand that they appoint some bureaucrat to go through all the documents, that's somebody who, like you said, wants to kick the can down the road so that let's say everything comes out in January of next year. He would have already launched his campaign. Who the fuck knows where things are in January of next year? The Republicans could be retaking the House, and people don't care as much.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why when you bring up the similarities with Flint, I mean, we all know how Flint ended, and it was not a happy ending by any means. And I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a similar cycle repeat.
Right. Absolutely. Now, moving on. Got 350 people watching. Not all of you have pressed the like button.
Press that like button.
I need every single person to press the like button. I need every single person to subscribe to get your news on with Ron. The description, the link is in the description. And Ron, by the way, is going to be co-hosting tomorrow with Tina. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, moving on to another deviant who has committed crimes on the working class. Larry Summers, who, by the way, is an unofficial advisor to the Biden administration.
Enough is enough.
I agree.
Enough.
Dude.
I agree. So
It's like they're just rubbing our noses in it at this point. Like they're not even trying to be subtle. They're just rubbing our noses in it.
totally agree. So I don't know if you saw this. If you have the CNN article, Colin, student loan announcement to come in the next week or so. Education Secretary says ahead of deadline. Of course, that announcement would be about whether Biden is he going to cancel 10,000? Is it going to cancel 50,000? Is it going to cancel, 99.99? Is he going to shock the world, cancel the whole thing?
Are we all going to get a Del Taco coupon? What's going to happen?
I was thinking Denny's, but yeah.
Denny's.
Yeah, we'll see. Or In-N-Out. I know that's popular over there. Hey, there we go. Colin.
There you go.
So, yeah, basically Lawrence Summers, the enemy of anything really beyond crumbs for the working class, who, by the way, his solution for inflation is to lay off 10 million people so that unemployment will go up and inflation will come down. This was Obama's, I don't know if he was Obama's Treasury Secretary or head of the Council on Economic something. He was an advisor to Biden's presidential campaign, and now he's an unofficial advisor to Biden in the White House. So Larry Summers, he felt that, the world needs his thoughts on these matters. So he tweeted, every dollar spent on student loan relief is a dollar that could have gone to support those who don't get the opportunity to go to college. Let me repeat. Every dollar spent on student loan relief is a dollar that could have gone to support those who don't get the opportunity to go to college. And Colin, if we could show the tweet above that, because that was part of a thread. His first tweet, I hope the administration does not contribute to inflation macroeconomically by offering unreasonably generous student loan relief or microeconomically by encouraging college tuition increases. Oh, boy. I don't even know where to start.
What a stooge. What a total stooge. I mean, the real way to read that tweet, don't raise the tuition because we still want people to go. And don't forgive student loan debt because we have future generations to exploit.
Yes.
That's what he means. He's not talking about, obviously, he's not referring to free tuition or anything like that. He's not for that. He's referring to we need future generations to exploit. Why would we forgive predatory loans when we can issue more predatory loans?
Right. Well, first of all, let's just take this one by one. First of all, when he says, I hope the administration does not contribute to inflation macroeconomically by offering unreasonably generous student loan relief or microeconomically by encouraging college tuition increases. What he's basically saying there is if young people, and by the way, it's not just young people, there's plenty of older people, middle-aged, baby boomers who still have loan debt. Yep. If they have more money in their pockets, then it's going to drive inflation further because then corporations are going to rise their prices because there's more demand. That's not, to him, that's inflation. In reality, that's called price gouging. Let me repeat, that's called price gouging because it's not an issue where there's, if there's only 5 apples left in America, well, those apples are going to be, extremely expensive because people, there's a huge amount of people that want apples, right? That's actually how supply and demand works. This is just price gouging, basically saying, hey, if young people have more money in their pockets, all these restaurants and, cruise lines and whatever are going to jack up their prices because, there's more money. That's not how it works. First of all, Larry Summers, they're price gouging. They don't have to raise their prices because more people the noose has been taken off people's neck. They rise their prices because we live in the United Corporations of America, and there's no restraint or rules on corporate greed. JFK, for example, in 1962, put his boot on the steel companies who were raising their prices and said, yeah, I'm pulling your submarine contracts. I'll give it to steel companies that aren't raising their prices. And they folded like a cheap tent. I actually would like a profit cap. I know that's anti-American to say, but I think at a certain point, corporations should be capped out at the profit they could make, and anything past that goes to the workers. How about that?
Yeah,
But
no, I think there should be, I mean, all that stuff like price ceilings, like wage floors. I'm for all that. I'm
right.
for all of that, like big time.
But the other thing that drives me, and let me just try my best Steve Grumbine here, modern monetary theory. When he says, this is the second tweet from him, Colin, on the sheet. Every dollar spent on student loan relief is a dollar that could have gone to support those who don't get the opportunity to go to college. This is just gaslighting. There is no dollars being spent on student loan relief. These are government loans.
Yeah.
So it's just, if you cancel it all today, it's just, all right, this is just revenue that won't be coming into the government anymore. It's not like we're spending dollars to cancel the loans, or the taxpayers. This is the popular right-wing argument and neoliberal argument that the taxpayers are going to be paying for this. No, this is government loans. The government prints money anyway. So if they cancel the whatever it is, a couple $1 billion in student loan debts, then they just move a couple decimals around and print money elsewhere. And it's made up.
Yeah,
So,
and for the privately held loans, I mean, the privately held loans are like a very, very, very small percentage of all student loan debt. Now, that very, very small percentage is a big number for the regular people holding that debt. But for like the government, again, they would just cancel most of the loans, which are federal loans anyway. And then for the private loans, like you said, shift the decimals around, done. So it would affect them basically in no way whatsoever, but it would lift multiple generations out of crippling amounts of debt, which would not, quote, cause inflation. What it would do is it would cause the economy to work a lot better, because people would be able to do things like buy houses, like have more discretionary income, which would, be spread around. That's how an economy works. That's how an economy is supposed to work.
Yeah, because, if you have a $600 nut to crack every month towards student loans, or I've talked to people that have $1,000 a month on student loans, and that goes away. Hey, guess what? You're able to go out to eat once or twice a month now, or you're able to, plan a vacation somewhere, travel the country. You're able to, buy a bond or something. You're able to put money into the economy. It's the same principle as unemployment insurance. Like, it's not ideal. People want jobs, but that money just goes right back into the economy. So it's just basically, this is a neoliberal asshole who, by the way, pushed for NAFTA, which destroyed the working class and unions, pushed to repeal Glass-Steagall, which was the law that was ushered in during the New Deal that separated commercial banking and investment banking. Once that was repealed, I give you the 2008 financial crash, because Wall Street banks could basically, come up with all these fucking fraudulent, mortgages and all these special products, they call it, because there was no regulation separating commercial banking with investment banking. But Bernie Sanders, top policy aide, Warren Gunnels, he called bullshit on this. If you could show this tweet. Warren Gunnels wrote, "Bullshit. Canceling all student debt would improve the lives of 45 million Americans. Want to pay for it? Tax the damn Wall Street speculators who made you obscenely rich, Larry, the same guys you helped bail out. And by doing that, we could also make public college tuition free." So I'm kind of happy with this tweet, but kind of like, all right, you lost me at want to pay for it. Because again, you don't have to pay for this. It's called modern monetary theory. We print money for war. Ron, do you think American taxpayers covered the $300 million we were spending per day in Afghanistan for the last 20 years?
Right. Yeah. That's why they never have to ask how we're going to pay for it when it comes to that stuff.
Right. Because taxpayer money does not, like on a local level, it does. You can't, like the mayor can't print money out of his or her ass. The city council, you have to actually have a budget, and, you can't be massively in debt, which a lot of cities are. But on the federal level, I mean, Alan, basically Ben Bernanke, the former Federal Reserve Chair, just straight up said it. Yeah, no, it's not really a thing that we would default, because we could just kind of print the money. I'm paraphrasing. So it's just so dishonest. I think what Larry Summers, the argument he's really making is you don't want to open up this Pandora's box of giving real structural change for the working class. because if you give on this, then people start to wonder, wait a minute, if we could have done this, like, why can't we do universal health care? Why can't we? So I think that's what's really going on here, Ron.
Yeah. I mean, I do, from a messaging standpoint, I get the, the Gunnels tweet. Like, I do get it, because I do think it is still valuable to kind of show people how Wall Street really works, how they are really just running this country, and just the obscene amount of money that they have, like, within their grasp. Meanwhile, like, the quality of life declines and declines and declines for people at home. I mean, they're worth about a projected quadrillion. And even just like a modest tax on them could hypothetically fund so many things. I mean, it would fund all this stuff. So I do think that's valuable for people to know, because I think like that leads people to the next step of, well, how did it get this way? And then something like MMT comes in. It's just like, well, we could just kind of create the currency. That's how it works. So we never have to really have the question of how we going to pay for it. We just only employ this stuff when it comes to Wall Street and the rich and the ruling elites. We never employ it when it comes to helping people.
And the thing that drives me crazy about this is, like, Biden, and you don't see the media really shockingly report this, but like, how are you going to pay for it? The government owns the loans. So it's kind of like the government could just say, you know what? We want to make a whole generation's lives easier. And by the way, we're going to do something about outrageous college tuition prices. They're not, because that's another secret. Harvard, Yale, Cornell, they're buying off politicians left and right. Yeah. With donations. There's a real revolving door, by the way, between the Democratic Party and these elite institutions. But the bottom line is, like, it has nothing to do with college tuition prices if you cancel the student loan debt. Like, Larry Summers wants you to think, hey, if you cancel the student loan debt, that's just going to make colleges hike their tuition up even further. Then guess what? We're going to have a movement to say, then we're not going to college. If we're going to be indebted forever, it's the same principle as rent. If we could organize something in America where enough people said, yeah, we're not going to pay the rent, there's power in numbers. So if your reaction to lowering to canceling the student loan debt is to then move college tuition from the already obscene $50,000 to $60,000 to $90,000, then you're not going to have customers, because we're not going to take out more loans for that. So to me, it's just, I don't know why Larry Summers is still talking. I don't know why the media still, like, because they then have him on, CNN has him on. The reality is, he is somebody, and his ilk, which comes from the Bill Clinton school of the Democratic Party, genuinely believes that you shouldn't have nice things, and you should have to basically pay your dues. And they believe in separate rules for the working class than the elites, because he wasn't saying any of this about, we shouldn't, bail out the banks, because, what effect would that have on people? He said, we need to bail out the banks, so we're not going to have an economy.
It's just basic neoliberal bullshit. And when you talk about strength in numbers, a thing I wanted to add on to that, we've reached a point in our society. Like, I mean, like, young people who I know in my life, like family friends or family members or whoever, whenever they ask me for any advice on, like, college or whatever, or if they do, I always say, are you looking at places abroad? I mean, we've reached a point where in so many cases, it's actually more affordable to go abroad, have housing abroad, pay for the flights, whatever you want to come back and visit, and pay the tuition costs for international students, because it's still a fraction of what it costs in the United States. In so many cases, it is cheaper to do that than study in the United States, which is crazy. It's crazy that that's the reality, but that is the reality. So if we had, like, basically every potential college student who wants to get a higher education just saying, hey, screw you, we're leaving, and going all over the world, I mean, things would have to change real quick, because a lot of those young people who go, a lot of them, let's be honest, Jordan, they're going to want to stay where they're at. They're going to be like, holy shit, there's so many. The quality of life here is astronomically better than what is offered to me in the United States. I can stay here, and I only need one job to frickin' survive. I'm not saying other countries don't have their problems. Of course they do. But in a lot of countries in the EU and Canada and Mexico, a lot of those places, you only need one job to survive and have a quality of life. And guess what? Your job's not tied to your freaking healthcare. So you're somewhat 18 to 22. You see what you were able to have, going to college out there, and that it was cheaper for you to pay for international freaking travel than it would have been to go to school down the street from where you grew up in some cases. I mean, you're talking generations of people who are going to flee this freaking place.
Right. And by the way, it tells you how economically illiterate we are. Colin, if you could put up that Mediaite story. Nina Turner made the same exact point that you and I are making. She tweeted it, I don't know, today or yesterday. And she was attacked on Twitter. If you could show her tweet, it's in the story column. She was attacked for simply saying, FYI, student debt cancellation isn't paid for by the taxpayers. The federal government is the lender. It's costlier for the government to hold on to the debt. And boy, right-wingers, Larry Summers, acolytes came out against her, mocking her like she doesn't know what she's talking about. Actually, you don't know and this isn't like defending Nina Turner. She's right. The government owns it. The government could wipe it out. And guess what? If the Democratic Party is interested in winning, I'm not convinced they are interested in winning. It's a pretty powerful tool for millennials, for middle-aged people that still have debt to wipe out their debt. I don't know, Ron. That might make me come out.
They would crush in the midterms if they wiped out. And I guess we're going to be hearing an announcement soon, like I guess within the next week or so. If they canceled student loan debt, which Joe Biden can do with the stroke of a pen, he can do it. I mean, all it takes is the signature. He can cancel all of it, not some of it, frickin' all of it. And if they did that, they would crush in the midterms, because even the naysayers, and look, I mean, the Larry Summers of the world, like, they're just corrupt. You have a lot of general voters. They're not necessarily corrupt. They're just brainwashed from all the bullshit they were force-fed for years and years and years. There's a lot of just general people. They truly believe the Reaganomic bullshit they were force-fed, that it's like, oh, my taxes are going to go up astronomically if they cancel student loan debt. Then when it doesn't happen, they'll just be like, oh, shit, they figured out a way to do it. Maybe everything I was taught was a lie. I don't know if I'll go that far, but at least they made it happen. So go Democrats. I guess they did something cool. They just don't want their taxes to go up. That's it. Like, so when it doesn't happen, they'll be like, oh, cool. So, I mean, it would be a slam dunk. If they canceled all student loan debt, they would win. I would say, honestly, I guess the next 12 years of election cycles, they would win.
Right.
I would go there. I would say the next 12 years, maybe more. And yeah, it just goes to show you that the first priority of the Democratic Party is not winning. Their first priority is, let's make sure the donors are happy. Their second priority is, we make the donors happy. If we can beat a Republican or two, cool. If not, well, as long as the gravy train keeps it rolling.
You got it. You got it. Everybody, one more topic. Smash that like button. We'll definitely get the super chats in a little bit. George W. Bush, who has been, kind of extreme makeover. The corporate media has, reenacted George W. Bush into just some misunderstood painter. Infamously, Ellen DeGeneres did the whole selfie at the Dallas Cowboys thing with him. Now there is a George W. Bush masterclass on leadership. I'm not going to play the whole thing because I don't have the stomach for it, but we'll play a little bit of it. If you could play some of George W. Bush's leadership lessons.
The chief executive has got to be bold within reason and daring in application. I recognize very few people watching this will become president, but I think you'll find lessons in leadership that will apply to your life. as president, sometimes I had information that the American people didn't know, and therefore I had to make decisions what was best for the country on knowledge that wasn't evident. That's just the nature of leadership. So long as you're guided by principle, and so long as you're guided by...
Thank you very much. I couldn't take more than 15 seconds. I have a lot to say, Ron, but I'll start with you. Are you going to be taking George W. Bush's leadership lessons masterclass?
I mean, I would love, I couldn't justify paying for it, but if somebody paid the fee or whatever in exchange for me to do like an Mystery Science Theater style commentary throughout, I could get into something like that. Like a live commentary of the George W. Bush masterclass. Because I've never taken a masterclass, but it's just like a recording, right? Like it's just a recording of the person, teaching whatever they're teaching, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So I would just like engage. I had stuff the American people weren't privy to. Yeah, and then you had stuff that was just totally make believe, like WMDs. Continue, please. So, but yeah, that's incredible. The way we have whitewashed George W. Bush. I mean, and I'm sorry, George W. Bush is still by far, if you have to measure it, by far the worst president of all of our lifetimes. That administration brought this country to its knees, and we are still reeling from the effects of it. And people love to throw these things out there like, well, Obama dropped more bombs than Bush. Yes, that is true, but that's because of the war machine that Bush put on autopilot. They started that machine. It was the axis of evil. It was the new American century. It was the neocon agenda with the list of countries that General Wesley Clark had. That was their agenda the entire time. And Bush was just their puppet. It was Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld. Call it all the frickin' shots. We're still feeling the effects of that. We're still feeling the effects in the climate because the Clean Water and Air Act that Dick Cheney pushed through, that was anything but. That's why the EPA's been gutted and gutted and gutted, and then Democrats can push through fossil fuel agendas with a smile on their face because of what they started, what the Bush administration started. So yes, Obama left it on autopilot, which was terrible. Trump left it on autopilot, which was terrible. The Bush administration, they were the freaking architects. And people love to ignore that, A, because they just forgot it, because that's the American way. And B, because it makes you sound really cool and contrarian when you say, oh, no, people were worse than Bush. No, people weren't worse than Bush. Nobody has been worse than Bush. Every president in most of our lifetimes has been nothing but Reagan. We've had nothing but Reagan for 40 fucking years. So saying Obama was Reagan is true and accurate. But saying that anyone was worse than fucking George W. Bush, you're just trying to sound cool or contrarian. They weren't. Bush started the new American century, and that is why we are where we're at now. So when you see people whitewashing George W. Bush, when you see people celebrating Liz Cheney because she has two brain cells to rub together to know that Trump's an asshole, it's freaking so ridiculous beyond comprehension. Dick Cheney should be in a jail cell. George W. Bush should be in a jail cell. And it's just like when you whitewash that, when you whitewash what that administration was, we're just going to repeat it. We're just going to repeat it with more Reagan and then worse than Reagan. So yeah, you want to sound contrarian.
We got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Sorry, had to. Yeah, I don't know if I could say it any better, but I just want to, if the former president, even though he stole the election, that's the great thing. All like Liz Cheney is like, oh, the sanctity of democracy. Well, you sure was cheerleading the theft of the election from Al Gore. I mean, I'm no like Al Gore super fan, but like the votes were
but
being
he won.
Yeah,
he frickin' won. I didn't like him that much either, but he frickin' won.
Right. I mean, the votes were being counted in Broward County, and all of a sudden it stopped because W's brother stopped it, and then his Supreme Court stopped it. So, there's a lack of consistency, I would say, as far as Liz Cheney worrying so much about the sanctity of elections. But
nobody talks about that part, though, Jordan. They'll still bring up Ralph Nader, even though mathematically blaming him made no sense whatsoever. They'll still bring up Ralph Nader anyway. They won't bring up what really went down. They won't bring up the play of events. That it's like, oh, his brother stopped at the Supreme Court. No one talks about that part.
Right. Absolutely. But I want to, if the former president is watching, I want to provide him a masterclass with something. Colin, if you could show the document from August 2001, if you'll allow me, called Bin Laden. Where is that? Bin Laden Determined to Strike. Do you have that one? It's at the bottom of the live doc. So I want to teach George W. Bush a master class in something called reading. So this was August 6, 2001. Hey, who knows? There might be people watching that weren't alive. A month before 9/11, George W. Bush, at this point in his presidency, had already taken the most amount of vacation of any president in the first 6 months of his presidency, which just established that he stole the White House. But Colin, if we could scroll down a little bit, you see the headline, Bin Laden Determined to Strike in the U.S. But if you go down to we have not been able to corroborate some of the more sensational threat reporting, such as that from redacted service in 1998, saying that Bin Laden wanted to hijack a U.S. aircraft to gain the release of the blind sheikh, Umar Abdul Rahman, and other U.S.-held extremists. Nevertheless, FBI information since that time indicates patterns of suspicious activity in this country consistent with preparations for hijackings or other types of attacks, including recent surveillance of federal buildings in New York. CIA and the FBI are investigating a call to our embassy in the UAE in May saying that a group of bin Laden supporters was in the U.S. planning attacks with explosives. I don't know, Ron, I'm not an expert, but usually airplanes are hijacked. They were telling the that memo also indicated there were imminent hijackings planned. There was other information that the CIA had gotten to President Bush that there were potential Al-Qaeda members in flight school in America. So flight schools in America at this time. So here's a masterclass. Read the fucking memo, because I do believe if Al Gore was president, there might have been one minor thing, like maybe heighten airport security right now, right? If you have intel telling you that bin Laden wants to use airplanes as weapons, maybe heighten airport security. I'm not down with what has happened since, which is, the war on terror. And
yeah, they used it.
Yeah, let's check grandma. Let's frisk grandma. But
the Patriot Act, I mean, yeah.
At that time, it would have been wise to maybe heighten airport security if you're getting intel that a terrorist is wanting to use airplanes as missiles. By the way, that doesn't mean like we should address, we created bin Laden. Right. I mean, America was with the Mujahideen. I can never pronounce it. You get the point. America was with bin Laden in the battle against the Soviet Union. But Bush is responsible for 9/11. He tried to defend himself. The 9/11 commission was a joke. It was as much of a commission and a true investigation as the Warren Commission was after JFK's assassination. But it's just, I don't know. If I was a parent who lost a son or a daughter in Iraq, if I was a parent who's lost someone in, if I was a parent who lost a soldier in America, if I was a parent who lost a soldier in Afghanistan, and all the other countries that our war and terror has spiraled into, I'd be pretty insulted that this guy is fucking, giving a master class on anything. He should be giving a master class from prison is what he should be doing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's just truly repulsive that he is like, I mean, again, we're the United, I mean, like Gore Vidal put it, we're the United States of amnesia. And all of a sudden, like, he's just, I mean, and then people, and I think part of it too is like a bit of Trump derangement. It's like, I mean, Trump is, terrible and he tweets mean and stuff like that. And he was an absolutely horrible president. And I find it stomach turning that he even found his way into such an office. But, people are kind of like, well, at least George Bush respected the blah, blah, blah. No, he didn't. He was freaking terrible. Like, he's a war criminal. He is a war criminal. You're allowed to realize that Trump's a jerk and still not forget that George W. Bush is a war criminal. There's not some quota on villains, especially in United States politics. There can be more than one. And guess what? There's way more than one. Bad news. Hate to break it to you. But yeah, anyway, good luck to George W. Bush in his masterclass. I'm sure it'll be a doozy. I'm surprised it's not a paid by numbers. It's on leadership, something he also crushed it at.
Well, next will be his TED Talk. I'm looking forward towards that. We'll get a TED Talk, maybe an MSNBC hosting gig. Who knows? We'll see.
Oh, wow. That would be, yeah. This is
MSNBC is hot for Liz Cheney. They're going to be.
You think they're going to offer her something? I thought that might be next for her.
Do I think?
You think so?
I think it's already happening. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. All right.
I don't know if she'll take it, but I mean, pretty much the rest of the.
Do you think she wants to run for president?
Do I think she wants to be president? Yeah. Do I think she would run because she has delusions that she actually is like a patriot and will bring down Trump? Maybe. Yeah, maybe she would.
So here's
I think Daddy Dick might be pulling the strings.
Well, yeah, probably. I'm with you there. Do you think there's a chance she'd run as a Democrat?
I do declare, I do think so.
I think there's a chance. I don't think it's a high chance, but I do think there is a chance. It wouldn't shock me, because I mean, they're a big tent, especially if you're right wing.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, man.
I don't know. Could be. She'd probably have a better chance, honestly, as a Democrat.
They love her now.
My aunt, who I very much love, she lives in Massachusetts. I just saw her for the first time, and she's like, you know what? I just love watching Liz Cheney in those hearings. And I said to her, and Debbie, I need 30 minutes with you. I need 30 minutes with you. And after I gave her the rundown, she felt a little differently. But yeah, no, I could see it. But the reality is, so much is unknown. Honestly, it goes back to earlier. I think Trump's actually in trouble. I don't know if he would actually spend a minute in prison. I don't know if he'd ever be convicted in the United States.
I don't think so.
But I really just can't imagine Merrick Garland approving this unless they had had him dead to rights, way beyond just like, oh, he took some classified documents. Because honestly, not that that's okay, but let's stop pretending, whether you're on the left or the right, people care so much about the sanctity of classified documents. Nobody gives a shit. They weaponized it against Hillary Clinton, even though I think she should be prosecuted for many things. The left doesn't really care about the sanctity of classified documents. Neither does the right. They just care about nailing their political opponent. But it does matter if he was trying to use classified documents that are actually dangerous to be out in the public. Now, it's a whole separate discussion, Ron, that we don't have time for. There's a whole lot of documents that are classified that have no business being classified. I mean, hell, look at the JFK Records Act. A lot of that stuff was classified just so they could hide what actually happened. I wish I could say what actually happened on YouTube. Hint, the CIA killed him. So there's a lot of classified documents that shouldn't be classified that the public should have access to. But I just have a hard time believing they would have went in commando style unless they had Trump dead to rights. But we'll see. What I do know, if they don't go after him, they definitely have strengthened him because he's literally raising $1 million a day. I mean, if you just want for shits and giggles to sign up for his email list, he's banging out, well, not him, but his people are banging out, 2 emails an hour, and they're more dire by the minute. But it's working. I mean, he's raising a shit ton of money. So
well, and we talked about this on the show last week when I co-hosted it with Tina, because she brought up this poll where he's going up now, and in a very, very bizarre way, I almost, because it was between him and Desantis, and it was saying like he's a little bit ahead of Desantis now. And I was like, in a very weird way, I actually find this a bit of a relief, because I think that Ron DeSantis is the most dangerous person in American politics.
Thank you.
By far. Ron DeSantis is so, and you know, and I know, I mean, I even saw a couple things in the chat where people are saying, "Oh, Ron's a Republican sympathizer," or whatever. I'm totally not. I'm just saying that Ron DeSantis, who is a Republican, by the way, Ron DeSantis is the most dangerous person in American politics, and I mean, anything that gets that guy further away from the White House,
right? Well, if you want the Don't Say Gay bill, the Stop Woke Act, banning math textbooks, if you want that on crack federally, hey, he's your guy. If you want somebody who actually knows how to pull the levels of power, like if Ron DeSantis was president, they would have got Obamacare repealed. Trump failed to do that.
Dude, that's the thing. I tried to explain this to my Italian family. Like I was talking to one of my cousins in Italy, and I kind of put it this way. I was just like, okay, to bring it to you guys, Trump is Berlusconi. DeSantis is freaking Mussolini. That's the difference. Like that's how I would put it. It's not a perfect analogy because it's like there's a lot of time and stuff, but that's how I would put it. Like Trump's just, you know, some playboy wannabe, you know, like just iconoclast, whatever. Like he doesn't really stand for anything. Whereas DeSantis, that dude is a true theocratic fascist authoritarian. And he knows, I mean, we're seeing it because it's like, how many people passively accepted stuff like the Don't Say Gay bill because they didn't take the time to freaking read it and see what it really does. You know, they don't take the time to look into what he's really doing because, again, he's very shifty with it all. We're seeing it happen. Imagine if he was doing that federally. And it would be shows like this that would be screaming about what these policies actually do. And it'll be too little too late each time. Imagine that happening at the federal level. That's terrifying. That is terrifying. And none of us know where the fucking floor would be. None of us know. Or they're the bottom, not the floor.
I'm with you.
What I meant.
I mean, I think if Trump was president again,
I don't want that either.
There would be regressive things. I mean, there would be bad policies, but I don't think it would be as organized and rapid fire. I think Ron DeSantis could be like Reagan in actually getting a lot of like generationally repressive things, like enacted. Whereas Trump, he got some things done, but a lot of it was just your average tax cuts for rich people.
Right.
And much of it failed because he didn't really care about getting policies through. He cared about it being the Trump show for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying, of course, I don't want Trump to be president again either, but I'm saying, man, I mean, DeSantis, I think he would be as effective as Reagan. And honestly, I mean, again, we're talking bottoms of the barrel here in every situation, but it's like, I think he is a brand of evil that exceeds Reagan even. I mean, that guy is I mean, again, I think he is more dangerous than McConnell.
All you have to know, and Colin, let's have a standing order to have this ready for every show. When a man runs for office and uses his child and runs commercial ads reading Art of the Deal to your infant kid, you know there's something sinister going on. Remember that? He read to his child Art of the Deal for his campaign.
I don't remember that, actually.
Oh, yeah. DeSantis read Art of the Deal in a campaign ad to his kid and like gave him like, I don't remember exactly, but gave him like a Make America Great, like stocking stuffer or something.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that's all you need to know.
No, the last humorous political ad I saw was I saw Dr. Oz's crudité performance piece. That was kind of fun. I'm sure you saw that.
Okay. Yeah.
The veggie tree.
Oh,
I texted my family. I have a little group text. My family lives in Pennsylvania. We have a little group text. And I was just like, hey, do you guys need me to send any veggie trays from California? And they must not have seen it because they like my mom sent back a bunch of question marks. They pay attention to politics and stuff. So I was a little bummed out my joke bomb, but you know, what are you gonna do?
There you go. Let's read some super chats. Hold on. Venetia, £5. Ready to get my news on with Ron and Jordan. Thanks from across the pond.
Thanks, Venetia.
Double K, $19.99. Thank you. Cheryl, $20. Bernie with hearts. Yeah, you know, he deserves credit. Listen, if I lost 2 presidential cycles, I'd go and fucking go to some beach, drink a lot of margaritas, and sail off into the sunset. I probably wouldn't be hauling ass the way he is. So he does deserve credit. Again, I would like him to use that energy and use that base of support he has to actually threaten Biden. Take away your friend's privileges, Bernie. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, Cheryl. Double K, another $19.99. Thank you. Observer, $5. What Jon Stewart did for vets is bigger than anything else from Biden. How about that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jon Stewart deserves a lot of credit. And by the way, it says something about the state of American media. Ron, do you think the media would have covered that bill at all?
If it wasn't for Stewart. Yeah, no, I don't think so. And another side note, I saw this online today. I don't know all the details about it. I just kind of saw it briefly scrolling through Twitter, but apparently there's something out there, like some petition or something, to replace Bill Maher with Jon Stewart. You know, I'm not like a huge fan. I mean, obviously I'm not a Bill Maher fan at all. I'm not a huge Jon Stewart fan either. I'm kind of more of a shrug, but man, if he took over that show, I don't know. I might tell my manager I want to send a writing packet in. If it was Stewart hosting it, you know.
I liked Stewart back in the day, but then it became very repetitive. You know who I used to love?
It did.
You know who I used to love? I loved Colbert, the character.
Well, yeah, me too. Then he became the character. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Colbert,
He became
just
the
like,
character
you know, Colbert, like just the generic, whatever, like, you know, cool Democrat. No, but
Yeah.
Colbert, like vintage, like Bill O'Reilly Republican character was just
It
brilliant.
was genius. It was genius. And it was so cutting. It was so cutting. And so was Stewart back in the day. Yeah. And then it became a bit repetitive. And then but I feel like since he has stepped away and then come back as just a citizen, you know, it's sort of like we're seeing this other side. I haven't listened to his podcast, so I can't speak to any of that. But yeah, if he took over for Bill Maher, that would definitely be better than Bill Maher.
I haven't watched Bill Maher in a long. I watched a little bit the other day because a couple weeks ago because Taibbi was on it. But other than that, I mean, Bill Maher is just and all this bullshit. Oh, the woke. You mean decency?
Yeah,
like that's the thing. Like these people like Bill Maher who claim to be like liberal, but he's really just like a okay dad boomer now.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty right wing on most issues, I would say.
Yeah, he is.
It's bad. Another one. Das Bo's Fleisch, €4.99 was on Ron's Twitter space earlier.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
DeSantis is in my top 5 list of despicable people. Yeah, I'm with you. And a reminder, folks, still got a good audience. Please go subscribe to Ron's channel. He does great work over there. He also is the only person that really covers in-depth digital rights, which are connected to antitrust, monopolies. It's not a sexy topic. YouTube does not like stuff it in your feed.
Because they're against it. YouTube's against it.
Right. So he's basically working against himself. He's working not his own economic interests because he'd be much better off just doing videos every day, you know, attacking other YouTubers. He'd go viral. But he covers things that actually YouTube's algorithm probably has flags for just any of the words in the headline.
It's got to, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It's got to because it's just like, I mean, people never ever get notified when I'm live, and it's, you know, but whatever. It's what I care about, so that's what I talk about.
There you go. And Ron will be co-hosting tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern, with Tina Desiree Berg. And by the way, if you missed it, Tina has a weekly show now. We're airing it on Thursdays, the Right Wing Insanity Report. So if you missed the last week's one, it was really good. She interviewed a journalist who was attacked by an anti-masker, then did a little mockery of Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is always exciting. So go check that out. It's up on the channel. We also have some original stuff from my last road reporting trip that we posted over the weekend, if you missed those. So please, even if you're not going to watch a video, please just go click on it. Fucking let it run because it helps in YouTube's algorithm. The more people that click on it, the longer you watch it, Even if you are doing other things, just let it run, because then YouTube's little robot decides to recommend it to others. So thank you so much, Ron, for taking the time. If anyone's interested, I'm about to go on TikTok, on Status Coup's TikTok, with the rest of the cool kids, and talk about some shit. I don't really know what. So I'll be on Status Coup's TikTok in a couple minutes. Thanks, Ron, and I look forward to watching you tomorrow. And have a good night, everyone.
All right.